Good morning and welcome to Facebook Live. Just sort my computer, so hopefully that you can hear me okay. If I could have some thumbs up, that would be wonderful, or a little heart, whatever. That would be great. Morning, Tracy. Excellent. Morning, Andreen. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Morning, Philippa. Lovely. Thanks, Tracy. Perfect. Thank you, Philippa. Okay, so I saw this technique. This isn't my technique. I saw this on, I think it was on Instagram. There was a little video, then I think I followed it up with YouTube because the lady had done a YouTube video. I saw a Gina K Designs video where she'd used her dies to colour in her stamped image. What she'd actually done was she'd made a stencil of her die cut flower and then stenciled the backgrounds with the flowers all over it and then stamped the stamp detail over the top, which is what gave me, I know it's going to be back to front, but it's what gave me this. So let me flip the camera and we'll talk through the cards and everything and about the technique, because it blew me away. It was so clever and worked so well. It was beautiful. So bear with me a minute. I've got lots of different things going on at the moment, so I'm hoping I haven't left anything out that you shouldn't be seeing yet. Let me move my board back a little bit. Okay, that doesn't look too bad to me. Okay, so yeah, so it was a Gina K Designs video that I watched, and like I say, she actually did it with a butterfly. So if you've got Hazel's butterfly dragonfly, that would work perfectly to do it with. But I thought, oh, I'll use my handpicked florals. So I actually die cut an actual Mylar stencil. I bought a pack of Mylar from Hazel and Paul ages and ages ago. So I bought a little 6x6 and this was 250 microns, so it does die cut fine, but obviously not a particularly detailed stamp. You need something that's quite open and not intricate or anything like that. You could just do this onto acetate. So I've got an acetate sheet here. It's much more flimsy, so it'll die cut a lot easier. And you could cut this up and make stencils out of it and die cut your flowers and it would work just as well. You can do it out of card even. You don't have to use Mylar. And you don't actually have to have a die, really, thinking about it. All you need to do is stamp your flower out and cut the inside or cut around the edge of the petal line. So you could do this with any stamps that you've got, but you'd have to do it with a knife because you'd be cutting the inside of the stamp away. You wouldn't be able to do it with scissors. You would need to do it with a craft knife. But I also did it with the smaller stamp as well. And I also die cut the 3 daisies, but haven't had a chance to have a go with that one yet. But it worked really well and it was actually really easy. I mean, some of them line up better than others, but I don't really think it matters that much. This one lined up very easily. This one I didn't line up perfectly every time, but I don't mind that effect at all. And then I used the little stamps to actually fill the little gaps that I had. And then I'm also going to share, and I know I've done this before, but we've got lots of new people, so it's always good to have a reminder as well. But I'm going to do this faux metal dipped sentiments. So I did that with a blending tool and embossing ink and then put my polished silver on this one and obviously polished gold on this one. So yeah, I was really pleased with how these turned out, and I think it's a little bit down to the colour combos. I thought I might try a different one today. This was Enchanted Mariner and Wilted Violet, but I thought I might try Peacock Feathers, Wilted Violet and Picked Raspberry today. If not, I did wonder, I've just bought new ink pads of these because mine, well, my Scattered Straw was very old. My Kitsch Flamingo is very dry, and I thought, shall I buy re-inkers or shall I get a new pad? And to be honest with you, I do always prefer a new pad, so I went with these. And I don't know whether to use these three because I just think they'll be really pretty. And when we mix the yellow with the pink, it'll be orange. And when we do the pink and the Salvage Patina, it'll go a bit purpley, I think. So, not sure. Can't make my mind up. Indecisive as ever. On this one as well, I wanted to say I used my sentiment from Blossoms and Blooms and did this with polished gold embossing powder onto vellum. I doubled it up just because I've actually got down to, I don't know what I've done with all my vellum. I'm down to using tracing paper, and sometimes it works better if you double them up. So that's what I did on here, and it just hid the colours a little bit more so you could see the sentiment, make that stand out a little bit better. And then I've used some glossy hearts, and I actually put them in all the centres of the flowers as well, which I rather liked. This is a pack of acetate that I had. I don't know if this has got, no, that's, I've put a couple of sheets of acetate in a packet of vellum, so that's not much help at all. You wouldn't want too thicker vellum, too thicker acetate, because you're right, it's a problem with, would be a problem with die cutting. Lorraine, I would just give it a go with a piece of card, to be honest. If you haven't got any mylar and you haven't got the right acetate at the moment, just use cardstock, because it will work. You might need to keep die cutting new cardstock stencils, but they will still work fine. Let me just go back and make sure there's no other questions. I know that Philippa and Tracy, if there's anything that they can answer, they always will. But I think most of it is just good mornings. So thank you for joining me. It's lovely to have all your company. Okay, so I'm going to start off. I think I'll do another square card. And let me grab a square card. I think I'm actually going to do a panel and put it on a square card, and as this bit of card's a bit bashed up, I will cut my panel down from this. So this is a 15 by 30 piece of card that I would score and fold into a card, but as I'm cutting it down into a panel, I'm going to cut it 14 by 14 because I know that goes on and gives me a nice little border around the edge of my card. And then this piece I will use for stamping or whatever. So I'll get my other card, my piece of card that I'm going to layer it onto in a second. I'll do this first. So I have already cut, and I used my hand-picked florals, and I wanted to use this stamp, so I have used this die. So that's the die that I've cut from my piece of mylar. Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't got to hand my Crafter's Companion acetate, Lorraine, so I don't know what. Let me just very quickly. I don't think. Oh, hang on. I do have a Crafter's Companion pack. This is the heat resistant one. Doesn't say what. Doesn't say what. Wanted to say wattage. What GSM it is. Oh no. Well, I would think that would cut fine. That is. The mylar is much thicker than this. So if you've got this acetate, that should die cut. You might need to run it through a couple of times or put a shim in, but that should die cut beautifully. There shouldn't be any problem with that at all. And this is the heat resistant one, so you can actually heat emboss onto that one. Right, so I have already cut my stencil out, and I like to place one of my flowers so it becomes the focal point. Let me grab the cards. So it becomes the focal point on your card, so that you are going to see some of that flower, and you need a base, like a starting point. So I am going to, and I'm going to use my make art board. I'll just move everything else out of the way, sorry. These might go up off out of your vision, sorry. There we go. So I love this board. It's magnetic, it's got fantastic magnets that hold everything in place. It's fabulous for stenciling, all sorts of things. But yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. I got mine from Hazel and Paul, but lots of other shops will sell them as well. But I can highly recommend them. Now, I'm going to use 3 colours. Oh, shall I go with that pale? Oh, I really want to use the pale colours. They're brand new ink pads though, and that can sometimes... No, I'll stick with my older ones. Sometimes when they're brand new, they can be really wet, and I wouldn't want to spoil it all. So I'm going to try with these colours. Yes, cut it, Janet. That's a fantastic tip. Brilliant. When you cut your acetate, sandwich it between 2 bits of copy paper and you'll get a much nicer cut, and it won't sound so awful while you're cutting it either. So yeah, that's a great tip. Thank you for that, Janet. Okay, so I'm going to get my blending brushes, which I should have. It's only the blue one I haven't got on. Bear with me. I've been so busy this morning making samples for something else that I then have to clear away and hide away. Something that's will be coming soon, which is very exciting. Yeah. So when you do have colours that you're going to put together, you need to think about which colours to put beside each other. If you start, right, I can show you on this one. So like where I put the yellow in the centre, and then I've got ripe persimmon, picked raspberry and wilted violet. Where the wilted violet goes into the mustard seed, it can make it go a funny colour. So I did go back over afterwards with the mustard seed. So just bear in mind what colours you're putting together. It'd be better for me to have the pink next to the peacock feathers, because it'll make a purpley colour rather than it might make a muddy colour. So yeah, that's all I would say. Just have a think about what colours you are putting together. So get some ink on my sponge, and then I'm going to come in, and I want to do about a third of it because I've got 3 colours. You could, if you wanted to, have a middle colour and just do that in the centre. You don't have to do them in stripes like I've done them, although it doesn't really appear as a stripe once you start putting the stamping over the top. And be careful, you need to make sure you go up where you've got these pointy bits on the stencil. They will lift up, so make sure you're going in the same direction as them, and you won't get any problems with your stenciling. Right, okay, I think this is I think you're asking the question about my, it's called Make Art, and it's by Wendy Vici. It's from Ranger. It's magnetic, and it comes with the 4 magnets, and it comes with this magnetic ruler as well, which is really useful because it's got a centre point. So it's actually great for lining up to use on your cards and things as well. Okay. Right, so let's go in with the pink. Sorry, I'm trying to read the questions as well. As well as talk and demo. It doesn't work. Okay, so I'm coming in with the pink. I want to make sure that that's a bit brighter. You can come back in, you can add your colours, you can deepen them, you can go back in with each one so that you're reiterating that colour if you want, just so that you're happy with how it's looking. Then once you are, I can take my stencil off and I've got my flower. So then I'm going to turn the stencil a little bit. I can pop that down to hold that in place. And am I in? Yes, I am in view, all right. I'm going to turn the stencil so that I get some of all the colours showing. And it's nice to have a different colour. So this is the pink area, the blue, the purple. So just by moving and turning the flower, it will give me different colours next to each of the flower colours. I know what I mean. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so then I only need to do the middle part. You can see on your stencil where the colour is, so you know that that's like your little strip of colour to put in. Or you can do it much more random. It's entirely up to you. Like I say, you just want to be mindful of the colours mixing and blending and how they're going to look together. Okay, so then I can lift my stencil up and I've got my second flower. I'm just going to turn my panel round because it'll be easier for me just to share with you. Right, so I've got blue. I don't really want blue next to it, so I'll turn it and have some pink. And I'm just systematically working my way round the card, which is why I wanted that centre point one down first of all, so that I was not going to end up with too bigger gaps between my flowers. And come in, make sure you go the right way for that little pointy bit. And again, blending my colours in. And you'll start to get second colours showing as well, which is rather lovely. Okay, so we can lift it up. I'm going to turn my panel again. And let's have some pink in there. So you can do the flowers obviously as close as you like, leave as much room as you like. Quite nice to go quite close so that you don't end up with too much white space. But I do have that lovely like fireworks stamp that I can use as a great filler of any gaps that I might want to fill in later. Come down the centre. Again, make sure I go the right way for that piece of the stencil. And blend them in together. If I want to come back in and make sure that my blue is deep enough, I can do that. Okay, so now we're filling in gaps. So come back and fill this piece in. Now you're obviously not going to get all the colours in when you're just filling in the gaps. So sometimes you'll only get a couple of the colours. It really doesn't matter. You just want to stick to those three like channels, if you like, the stripes that you've created on the stencil to add your colour in. So maybe this time now down here, although I know I've got purple there, I'm going to put purple in this one. Okay, so then I can turn my panel around. I'm glad it makes sense. I don't often make sense, or I don't feel I do sometimes. Okay, so I want some purple and some blue and some pink if I can. So that looks, whoops, that looks good to me. And it's so easy just to keep moving the magnets. I highly recommend this little bit of kit. It is so useful and makes stenciling like this and holding things in place. Oh, it's just so good. It really is. Okay, so to make things easier for yourself, when you start adding like really little bits, if you pick one of the petals that's got a little bit of a different shape, you're going to find it so much easier when you're trying to overstamp. That is one thing I found yesterday when I was doing this. Trying to find the right part of the stamp when I've got little tiny bits. I did manage it, but yeah, it did just, you just need to take your time. You don't want to mess it up by not having the right part of the stamp on your stencil. Okay, so do I want a little bit up there? Yeah, I probably do actually. Oh, can't pick it up. Right, so let's make sure I've got blue there. Let's put a little bit of purple in. Don't want it too close. That's pink. Okay, I think I'm quite happy with that. And then we can get back to, this was the one that I did first, I believe. Well, if it's not, then that's the way I'm going, because I'm quite happy with how that looks. So let's put my lids on my inks for the moment. And now I'm going to move my board out of the way. And I'm actually just going to clean it quickly, because if I don't, I won't remember. And I don't want to put something else down on it and get all the horrible colours. I do keep lots of bits of tape that I've used that are still sticky with my stencils. It does end up, I had to throw a load away yesterday because it's like ridiculous. But yes, I would highly recommend this make art board. It's fabulous. Okay. So now I'm going to put my piece, I'm going to clean my stencil as well. Sorry. Right, and I found that if I spray my cloth with some water, it doesn't make my stencil quite so wet. Well, that has today. And it's just a bit easier to clean it up if you actually put the water on your cloth rather than, I usually just spritz the stencil. Right, so I'm going to bring my stamping press in. I'm not going to put my stamp in the stamping press, but I'm going to put my piece of card in, and I'm going to work that way, because you've got that nice foam. The foam in the stamping press is much nicer to stamp on than onto the make art board or the onto my glass mat. It absorbs the stamp, so you get a nicer finish. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm putting my stamp on a block. So this in itself was daring, that I wasn't using the stamp press. Now you could use the stamp press if you wanted to, but obviously it's going to take you a lot longer, because you are going to line up the stamp over the top, stamp it and move it in your press. You could do that quite easily, shall we? Or shall we do it on a... I'll probably regret doing it on a block now, but you could do it in the press if you wanted to. But let's try. Okay, so I've inked it up nicely. I'm going to move it away from the edge a bit because it's on the block. And I just hope my head doesn't get in the way. I don't think it will. But you do need to be... So forgive me if I don't line these up exactly, because you do need to be over the top a bit more. But how fab. And it just comes to life when you start stamping over the top. And what a great way to add colour to your design. I was just blown away. I just thought it was lovely. Something a little bit different. Now bear with me. This one's going to be harder because the light's funny on this one. Yeah, I just thought this was so lovely. Such a nice technique. I've missed a little bit there, but it's fine. I think it lends itself a little bit to the technique as well. Okay, so I'm going to move this up so I can stamp down the bottom there. And it is, I can't get my head over the top of the camera, that's what it is, to actually see where to stamp properly. So see, that one's better because I was able to get over that one a little bit more. So wipe any excess ink off, and now we'll come up the top and do that one. So I'm doing all the biggest parts first, and then I will go back through and work out which is the part I need for the smaller pieces. So you could do this in a stamp press. You would need to clean your stamp each time properly between stamping, because each time you laid it down on the card, it could end up marking it. So yeah, you would need to clean it properly between your stamping. I need to stamp about half of this. Let's put it up there so we can get our stamp in. I thought it was so lovely. I love the effect that a stencil gives you anyway. And I particularly, when you put the stamp over the top with the detail, oh, it was just like, wow. Okay, so that's that one. And like I say, I really don't think it matters if it's not absolutely perfect. Get rid of all that. And then we're going to do this piece, which is that one. Oh, I can't. Right, I will stop and read the comments in a second. Let me just finish. I've got one little bit here, which I believe is that bit. So I'm only inking up that tiny little bit now. But there's so much ink left on the stamp. Make sure I wipe that away. And then we've just got that bit there to do. I just think that looks fabulous. So chuffed. I think it's that bit. So just a lovely colour. I think that is partly what makes it all look so lovely, is it's going to be down to your colour palette that you choose, the colour combination that you put together. But how fab does that look? So I'm going to have it like that. So this is my focal point. Okay, so bear with me. I just want to make sure. Yeah, you can do lots of hearts. That's fine. Okay. Absolutely. Ah, Tracy, do you know what? I forget that technique so much now. Right. What Tracy means, let's put this back in here. If you don't know about the using acetate. Okay, so let's clean my stamp. I really do forget about this technique, and it is such a clever one. So anyone who's been watching for a long time will know it, but if you're new, you may not know this. So I've put my stamp and I've stamped that flower. Okay, so it's all linked up, and now I want to do this one. So if I get a piece of acetate, and I tend to use the bits of acetate that are on the back of the stamp sheets, put that down over the next one that you want to stamp. You don't need to clean your stamp. You're going to end up with dirty fingers, but you don't need to clean your stamp. Place it down on the acetate, line it up where you want it, pick it up in your press, take the acetate away. This will have ink on it now, and now you can line that up and it's perfect. So you do the same for all the little bits. To do that, put a piece of acetate over the stamp that you're lining up, and then take it away before you stamp it. It's a great technique, and I've totally forgotten about doing that. So I could have done it in my stamping press, but I have to say I'm pretty impressed that I managed to stamp with a block, which is quite amazing. Yeah, so if you haven't seen that before, then that's a fab technique. So thank you, Tracy, for that. Okay, So that is ready for my card. So let's grab another 15 by 30 and let's get my scoreboard. And I'm going to score at 15 centimetres. So I've got a 15 by 15 card, which will go in a 6 by 6 envelope. And then my sentiment, my panel is ready to go on there. Oh, doesn't that look nice? Oh, you could do an edge of black around it, which would look lovely as well. Right, so I'm just rummaging in my cardboard. I was hoping I might have a little, I might do. That feels about the same. Okay, because it's not quite long enough. Right, so I need to cut this down. Let's cut the straight edge. My piece is 14, so if I just cut it a little bit smaller than 14, and let's cut this a little bit smaller than 14. I don't know how much of that I need. Oh, not a lot. Okay. So this is, I want to layer this up onto my card to add a bit of dimension. But I'm not using foam pads, I'm using cardboard instead. And this is something that I learned from Philippa and Brian, who I always tease and say are my eco warriors. But honestly, if we ever have pizzas, if the boxes are okay, not too marked, I cut the pizza boxes up. But there are lots of other boxes that I get that are perfect to be cut up and used as well. But the pizza boxes are particularly nice. It's not too thick, the cardboard, and it just, the feeling that this gives on a card as opposed to foam pads, honestly, it is amazing, the difference. Now, I'm not going to stick my panel on my card just yet, because I don't know whether to put my happy birthday sentiment that I've got my sentiments ready for. When I heat embossed them, this one I added a vellum shadow, because when I put this one on, I felt that this one got a little bit lost in the flowers. I wanted to lift it off a little bit more, but I could do a band of vellum, especially as I've got the panel now. So if I did that, I would want to tuck it underneath. So let me grab. So at the moment I'm using cheap tracing paper because I can't find, I know I bought a really nice pack of vellum and I can't find it, but this is fine. It works absolutely fine. And it's beautiful to emboss. I wish I could show you because I've just made a card using it with some beautiful embossing on it, but I'll get into trouble with myself if I do that. Okay, so I am actually going to have a panel, and I love how Tracy tears the vellum. So I am going to tear a bit of a wiggly line, and then I want to be able to put on my happy and my birthday. So I need to know how long I need that to be, and I'm going to tear it up again. If you tear it up, it's going to open the vellum up so that you're going to end up with a little bit of a white edge to it, but you do need to tear it up when you're tearing so that you get that both the same. And now I'm going to pop that onto my card, but before I do that, I did this to this other card that I can't show you yet as well. So I've got some ink, and all I'm doing is just going over the edge, and it's just going to really take the colour on that torn edge. It will go up a little bit, but I'm really trying to just get that colour on that edge, but it just adds a bit of definition. So now when I put that over the flowers, that vellum has got an edge to it, so it's going to show up on your card a lot more. So I'll just do the other side. And I love how Tracy actually tears 2 pieces of vellum and overlays them. I just think it looks fabulous. I really do. Okay, so let's get rid of that. So now I've got my panel of vellum, which, because of that purple edge, it makes it lift off the card a bit more as well. I'm such a tease. I know, Philippa, I am. But I'm so good at it. Okay, so let's bring this round to the back. And let's add a bit of glue. It's mean, really, isn't it? But it does really help to make that stand out, because sometimes putting the vellum there will help with the sentiment a little bit, because it's just putting a bit of a frosting over your flowers. But by putting that bit of colour to it, it does really add that nice edge to your vellum. So that's the only way that I stick it down. You could add more glue where the happy birthday is going to be. So you could lift up and just put a little bit of glue underneath if you want to, but I find it's absolutely fine just being wrapped around. So let's pop that panel onto my card so that that can be drying. And another thing that I do when I'm drying, like applying panels like this to my cards, I do tend to put them under my die cutting machine, because it's so nice and heavy, and just that little bit of weight on them really helps everything to stick down and just get nice and firm on my card before I add my sentiments. Let's just move that around before that, make sure it's nice and straight. Okay, so I'm going to pop this underneath my die cutting machine just while I do my happy and my birthday with the embossing powder. I'm just having to be very careful because there's lots of things on my die cutting machine at the minute as well. Okay, right, so I am now going to show you how I added the embossing to the bottom of the letters. So I only want it on part of the letters. I don't want it all the way up. So I find it's better if I stick 2 of the sentiments together. I like that because it gives you the dimension as well, and it's much more like an embellishment once you've layered up a couple of the sentiments together. So put my glue down, line it up, just spend a little bit of time using your fingers just to line all your letters up, because it will really show if they're not nicely lined up. So just take that bit of time to do that, especially on the fiddly bits. Okay, and then I just use my nail if there's any of the little tatty bits showing where you've die cut it. Okay, and it doesn't matter, I've got glue on my fingers and some ink, but it won't matter. I used a scrap piece of card to do this. I made sure that I had one piece that didn't have any marks on it, and the other piece, it really didn't matter, because I'm going to emboss it anyway and colour it. So I'm not leaving it white at all. You could do if you wanted to. You could have part of it white at the very top, and then you could have some colour, and then you could have some embossing. But I think I'm going to colour it just with one colour, And I know on the other one I did a purple and a blue, but I think I'm going to make it all, as I've got 3 colours this time, and because I've done the purple on the vellum, I think I'm going to make this one purple. But what I would recommend, and it makes it much easier, is do your embossing first and then add your colour. Because if you put the colour on first, embossing, distressed oxides take a long time to dry. And unless you heat set it, where you've coloured it, it will pick up the embossing powder. So I've got a new blending dome that I have just with embossing ink on it. Yeah, he's here again. He's up in the tree at the bottom of the garden, singing his heart out. He's very noisy, isn't he? I'm flabbergasted that you can hear it where you are. But yeah, it's brilliant. Okay. Right, so literally I keep one blending dome just for embossing powder. So all I'm going to do is just brush it down, but I just want to do the bottom parts of the letters. So don't come up too high. And we'll do the birthday as well. Yeah, you just want to come up part of the way up of the letters. And then that's that done. And I keep that dome just for doing this. So just for applying embossing powder. So then I've got polished silver, which is the colour that I think will work best with the purple and the blue and the pink. And I'm just going to tip it all over the top or of the bottom half of my letters. And then give it a good tap. And I really like, just knocked it with my finger there. I really like how you get parts of it that aren't as heavily embossed. So when this is heated up, and because I only did one layer, it does go quite bobbly. But if you want that to be smoother, you can just apply the embossing ink again and put a second layer on. We'll do it this time. We'll make it a smooth finish. So this has got a very textured finish to it, which I'm hoping it's picking up. I think it is. And then this time we'll do a smooth finish, just so that you know the difference and you can decide what you want to do then. So adding my powder, giving it a good tap. Make sure you've got enough, that you've gone high enough with the embossing ink. You can't do anything about it now, but you can add a bit more on the next layer if you want to. But I'm quite happy with how much we've got. Let's just grab my tweezers so I can hold it in place. I'm going to put my embossing tool on and I'm going to get it hot before I bring it in to the embossing. Okay, so then I'm just going to start at one end. If I can see it going. Oh, there we go. Right, so it's not very easy. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the camera, how it's changing or not. I suppose I could pick it up actually, couldn't I? Hang on. Let's actually hold it with my tweezers. Right, let's start again. Might be because I didn't have it on setting 2. So let's see if I can get it so you can see it. I'm not sure the camera or my computer will catch up before I've actually heat embossed it all. Never mind. There. So I hope you got to see a bit of that. And then we'll do the birthday. Now, because it has only got the one layer of embossing on, it will be a little bit textured and bobbly. Okay, so you can see it is a bit textured and bobbly. But we can get rid of that now. We'll just add a bit more embossing ink. So do the happy first, make sure it's cooled down. and just go over on top of the embossing that you've already done. And we'll do the same on the birthday. Check it's cooled down. Okay, put my lid on there, and then pick up both of those. We should just better use the embossing powder that we've got down. Oh, it might be easier out the pot. It is. So give it a good tap, and that one's got a second layer on it. And then the same with the birthday. And again, give that a good tap. Make sure that, right, so you can see on here, some of my letters up the top have now got embossing, and I don't want that. So just with my fingers, you can do it with a dry brush. But I want to make sure that all of that is gone before I heat it up. I was going to say, I always have nails, and at the moment, all my nails are not there. Okay, put that back in the pot. Give that a good flick. And then put the lid on. And then I am going to hold these again and bring my embossing tool in, and hopefully we'll catch it so you can see it. But when you heat this second layer up, you'll get a much smoother finish. And you can keep going. You can add 2, 3, 4 layers, whatever you want to. Oh, that's not a good thing. That was lucky. Okay, but can you see how much smoother that is? Especially like round here. This is lovely. I like that because it's actually got some smooth going into textured. So let me pick these up again. There we go. Heat this up. And hopefully you can see that actually, this is much smoother. Okay, and then you mustn't touch them, especially now. Be careful how you touch them because they're going to be warm, because you've got those 2 layers on there as well now. So let me just pop these out of the way and grab my lovely brush and get rid of any embossing powder that dropped off, or yeah, any specks. Okay. So now we need to add our colour, and I think I am going to stick, let me get my card underneath my, so that's all lovely and flat and stuck now. Yeah, I think I am going to pick the purple. Yeah, we'll pick the purple out as we've done the purple round the vellum. Okay, so get some ink, excuse me, and then I'm just going to add some colour, come right down over the top of the embossing. Your ink won't affect it at all. And then if you're worried about it, you can just buff up your letters, wipe any excess ink off of your letters. Looks lovely. And just make sure you've got nice coverage. You can even twist your embossing tool actually, and that gives you a nice lot of ink down in one go. And it's looking after the word, because you don't want to, if you go at it too hard, you don't want to damage the birthday or end up with some creases or anything in any of the letters. So actually twisting the blending tool is a good way to add a nice lot of colour to it. Okay, let's get rid of that on the mat, and then just do exactly what you said not to do. Hold the letters while you just wipe any excess ink off. Okay, so now let's bring this in, and I'm going to going to glue the back of my letters. Add a little bit of glue. And then I am going to place my birthday down so I know where it's going to go on my piece of vellum. And then I like to fit the two P's either side of the H. Seems to fit in nicely like that. And then firm that down. Happy with that. And then some glue on the back of all my letters. Could have put this on with foam pads if I wanted to raise it up a little bit. But I think with the vellum and everything, it looks quite nice. So I want to put my H back in line with my P's, and then make sure the rest of my letters go down so it looks nice and straight. Fab. Okay, then I just think we could have put the little stamps, but I think this one is slightly closer, so I don't think I am going to do the little stamps. But what I am going to bring in is a few glosses. I think I'm going to put the black ones. I rather like the black ones. So we're going to have a little heart there. And we'll have a heart over here, and we'll have a heart down there. Okay, so I am reading comments. Excellent. I'm glad that you're going to give this a go. Brilliant. Do you know what? I really want to have a quick turn. Let's have a try. Let's cut this. This is the other half of my card. I won't make a card, but I just want to try those inks out. And if you need to go, you need to go. But if you want to stay, then fab. But I really want to try those colours. So let me get my... I'm going to use the same stencil again, I think, because it's a nice, big, easy flower to do. Alright, let's open these, and I will need to change. Let's put that one away because I don't want to use my ink blending one. Okay, so let's pop these away. So this is the little folder that I created after Hazel showed us how to do it. So I need a Salvage Patina one. That one looks perfect for that. And I need, that's my Peacock Feathers one. Oh no, that goes in there. Going to end up with lovely filthy hands now. I think I'm going to have a new one for my Kitsch Flamingo. And pop that one in there. And then let's try this one for my Scattered Straw. Okay. Right, so let's get my make artboard out. And if I pin it to the top, we should be all right, like near the top. You should be able to see okay. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so let's pop the stencil on. And I'm going to go, I think I'll stick with these three colours. I might do it slightly differently this time. So let's pick up some ink. Remember, it's a new ink pad. No, I'm going to do stripes again. I am. Oh, gosh, that's way too hard. Right, I'm sorry. So I should get a spare piece of card and take most of that ink off, and it's probably going to be too late to move that. Right, see, this is why I didn't want to do brand new ink pads, because you forget how juicy they are. Okay, so let's ink it up, but let's take some of the colour off. Okay, let's come down so that when we blend into that one, it's going to make an orangey colour. It probably won't with all that. It was rather heavy-handed. And into my salvage patina again, take my excess off, and then let's start so very gently, and then I should get a purplish colour as well. If only that scattered straw had been softer. Never mind. Okay, so let's move this round, and I might not need to no, I do need to re-ink it. Take the excess off and then come in. That's better. More gently. And then with my pink, and then with the blue. Tis pretty, isn't it? That is really nice colours. I'll have to cover that with my sentiment. I might need to do another happy birthday. Well, that is quite nice as well. I saw somebody else had done it the other day. I can't remember who it was, but it was somebody in the group had made a card and not put a sentiment on it because she didn't know what she needed the card for. She was just having a play, and I think it's such a good idea sometimes to make cards with no sentiments on them. And then, because I don't know about you, but if I need a thank you card, I've only ever got birthday cards, and if I need birthday card, I've only ever got thank you cards. And it's like, I just really need to change that sentiment. So not to put a sentiment on it to start with gives you that opportunity then to have whatever card you like. It is a bit Neapolitan ice creamy, isn't it? It does, I don't know, it's just, I don't know, it's beautiful. I'm really pleased with these. I thought it would be lovely. But yeah, I ordered them yesterday, and it's like, oh, I so want to try those new ink pads. These are colours that I love, but haven't been using them because my ink pads have been so dry. The kitsch, I just don't understand why it's, whether I've left the lid off of it or what, I don't know. But yeah, it dried out pretty quick. It's not been out that long, and some of the ink pads I've got are my original ones when I first got them. So, and I've got a few re-inkers, but I don't re-ink many of them because I just think you're better almost to get a new ink pad, because when they're made, they're inked under pressure, and it does give you a different look, or a different finish. I don't really know. Yeah, I much prefer new ink pads. Right, so that's pink down there. And a little bit of yellow in there. And then the rest is blue. And that salvage patina is such a pretty colour anyway. Oh, well, that's good. I'm glad you like the heavy-handed one. I like all of them. But, yeah, I would have liked, if I could have done it a bit softer, I'd have been a bit happier, I know. Right, so that's going to be all blue. It's okay, actually, if it's heavy-handed. That isn't a problem. But what I need to do, really, is keep it all heavy-handed. That's what I should have done. Oh, and no, that is right. That's pink. And that should be a bit of blue. Okay. doing the little bits like this, I know it like might seem a bit of a pain, but it is really important because this gives you a much more balanced finished panel that looks like it was a whole panel rather than leaving lots of empty space on your card. So doing the extra little bits around the edge, I know it's fiddly, and I know when we have to come to stamp it, it can be a bit fiddly as well, but it does make all the difference. Right, we're going to go in there with pink in that one. And then a bit of yellow. Okay, that does look really pretty, doesn't it? I'm really liking them. Right, let's... And another thing that I thought you could do, actually, and especially with them being new ink pads, you could pick, like, you don't really have to do it with black. You could pick a darker colour and then do it with that. You know, you could pick the peacock feathers and line them with peacock feathers. That would look nice. But, right, I'm going to show you this trick with the acetate now. Let's get rid of my board. So we will use the stamping press to do the stamping. So let me pop it in here and grab my stamp again and grab a piece of acetate. Right, so my first stamp is going to go down. I don't want to get my head in it. Let's come above. Right. In fact, what I'm going to use for this one is I'm going to use VersaFine, but the grey, because I've been using this for something else that I'm doing at the moment that I can't tell you about, which I will soon, I promise. But I've been using grey, and it's been really lovely because I've wanted a really soft look. And as these are soft colours, the grey might be a nice... I mean, it's quite dark anyway, but it is softer. Oh, I've cleaned my stamp. Oh, I didn't mean to, but I haven't done it properly. I meant to leave all the ink on it. Okay, so now I can pick my stamp up, and I'm going to place it down on the acetate and then line it up. Pick it up, remove my acetate. Make sure you keep it up the same way on your board so that you've got... Whoops. Ah! You've got the ink this side up, the ink pad lid touched down. Typical. Right. I will show you how to get rid of that. Let's just stamp my flower. I won't clean it this time. Now, this piece here will probably be okay. It's probably not going to be okay, is it? If I rub out on the top of inking, it's going to take the colour away. But this bit down here, where the ink pad lid just touched, I can get rid of that on the white card by using my sand eraser. Just go at it gently, because you don't want to just tear the card to pieces, which it does tend to a little bit because it is like sandpaper. So a little bit at a time, and you will get rid of that black ink. Or we will reduce it anyway. Okay. I'm not going to be able to rub, if I rub this out, it's going to take my pink off as well. It won't just remove the black, it will make it white. So I don't really want to do that. I'm going to make it stand out even more. Okay, so let me put my card back in. Let me put my acetate back over. Let me lift my stamp, and I haven't cleaned it, remember. So I'm going to pop it down, line it up as best I can, pick it up, and then I'm going to pick my acetate up, make sure it's ink side up, so it's always going back on with all the ink on the uppermost. Oh yes, you could. If you wanted grey and you're using a black ink pad, actually you can stamp off once and then stamp again. Although this has got quite a lot of detail and I don't want to lose that detail. Okay, so let's pop that down there. Put my acetate over the top. Lift my stamp again. Pop it down onto the acetate. You can then actually move the acetate so you're not touching the stamp more than you have to. Lift the acetate off, again making sure the ink is on the uppermost. And then we can stamp that down again. So that's all you do. You just keep going round until you've stamped everything. But you use the piece of acetate in between each stamping that you do, so that you don't have to keep cleaning your stamp. It is such a clever trick, and I've totally forgotten that I haven't done it for ages. And when you don't do these things, you forget about them, don't you? Well, I do. Okay, so the real thing is take your time in lining everything up. Make sure you can get your head over the top of your stamping, which I am struggling a little bit with. Move that a little bit because it's underneath my acetate. I am struggling because of the camera being in the way. So just that little bit there. And then I always wipe the mat straight away so I don't mess that up. Let's bring this up here. Again, look at all the ink on the acetate. Oh, can you see that? Hang on. Let's get a bit of card. See all that ink now? That would have been on my stamping. So it's great that by using that acetate, you are protecting your card. Okay, so that must be that one. And then take that away. And then a bit of that. Absolutely. I know, like, I don't do any stamping really using a block anymore, Tina. So I feel I completely agree that if you can do something like this, so you don't have to, I mean, you only have to make sure you've cleaned your stamp correctly, but this, you don't have to when you do it this way. So I'm just going to line the stamp up, move the acetate, pick it up, make sure you turn it, got the ink side up. And if it falls off and you're not sure, then just clean your acetate. Give that a really good wipe before you go to your next one. But yeah, I'm really glad that we had a go with these really pretty colours. Lovely to see what they looked like. Right, now I'm not sure which side it went down on. Right, that's the ink side. So almost there. One more to do. And then at some stage I'll finish this and share the finished card. That one there. You do get to know them as well when you've, the more you stamp with something. Oops, that moved. Okay, so I've got to move my acetate. It caught on the edge of the lid of the stamping press and moved it. So I think this one would need gold, a gold happy birthday. And actually, if I did it there, I could add the birthday down the bottom, couldn't I? But yeah, and you could cut this down a little bit smaller to try and get rid of, I've got another mark on it there, to get rid of that as well. Right, let me flip the camera. Absolutely, Janet, you're absolutely right. And it's not all, it's not only about like, yes, obviously it's great to learn something, but sometimes it's just being reminded of the things, you know, like Tracy's comment about using the acetate, and I had totally forgotten about that. So yeah, another, you know, it's made me think again. So yeah, it is. Every day's a school day. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. I can't wait to see what different colour combinations you come up with. And I will post photographs of the card in the Crafty Friends group. And yeah, enjoy. Have a lovely rest of the day. And I can't wait to see your colour combos. Okay, thanks for joining me, ladies. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh, and Brian, sorry.